They don't have Jordan Lawler at the very top of this list anymore. He's finally graduated. Feel
Thank
like
goodness.
yeah, it feels like Jordan Lawler would have been at the top of our prospect fatigue list if somehow he was still eligible. But no, the list is topped by Ryan Waldschmidt. I feel like the D backs are the short levered swing organization. They got a lot of smaller players, a lot of compact players with hit tools, and they got a lot of players with shoulder issues. That's
Hmm.
been kind of the D backs MO for years now. So multiple players inside this top 10 with some shoulder issues. But I think they've got a solid collection of hitters. Maybe not any like franchise altering players in the system now, but they've got a lot of hitters I like and I think could be solid regulars or solid contributors. Do you think that's two out of line here for the D backs?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay.
And with Ryan Waldschmidt at number one, and what was your read on Ryan Waldschmidt when he was coming out of the draft, and what's changed for you now that we've seen him hit hit the way that he has up through Double A?
Yeah, so I feel like at the time of the draft, he was a very polarizing player. But I remember like a lot of analysts, teams who are very model heavy, really liked Ryan Waldschmidt. And then I talked to a lot of scouts on the ground who are just a lot more skeptical of him as an athlete. They were a lot more skeptical of the swing itself and how he got to some of his power. I know there are question marks about like, would there be a lot of holes in the swing? And even in the report as it's written today, it sounds like there still are some concerns about how quickly Waldschmidt's swing gets in and out of the zone. It is very steep. Perhaps he's not able to tap into the sort of power and impact in the air at higher levels than he's been able to. But to this point, it's worked for him. He's been better. He's been a better player than I expected him to be. He was drafted 31st overall. We ranked him 33rd overall. But I remember at the time
Kind of
there
a
was
reach
some
then, yeah.
yeah, a bit of a reach there, 2 picks higher. There are some people I talked to who are like, "Yeah, look at his production and his speed power combo. He's clearly a first rounder." And then I talked to other people who were like, "Yeah, I would take him in the 3rd round because I think it's a right left fielder who's not a great left fielder, whose athleticism and defensive skills play down from his speed." And so I think the people who are most optimistic on him are probably more in the right camp currently. Of all the hitters we're talking about in this division, Ryan Waldschmidt's expected weighted on base average is number one. And this is a list of 34 players we have data for in 2025. He understands the zone. He hits the ball incredibly hard. He gets the ball to his pull side. He doesn't swing and miss a ton. Like he does a lot of things well offensively still. I do wonder like what the defensive profile is going to be like with him even still. But I mean, he's been really good. It's continued to work for him. Where are you at with him? I'm still kind of on the fence with Waldschmidt.
It's like I watch him hit, and it's a very simple lower half load. It's wide base, not much lower half movement to get his swing started, just that little lift to the front heel. So he's staying balanced, and he crushes fastballs. He's
Mm,
disciplined. He drew 96 walks this year, and he showed power. And power without it having to come at the expense of a lot of strikeouts. So
mhm.
it's just a very balanced, well-rounded offensive profiles. If you were to poke holes in it, I think there it would be, his the two areas would be his results against breaking balls, and then as you alluded to, how pull oriented he gets.
Mhm.
He draws a ton of walks, so it's not like he's out there just chasing a bunch of sliders off the plate. But I think those two things are tied together. Where if you look at all of his home run power, it's all coming to the pull side. So he can get pull happy, and it's good to pull the ball in the air, right? If as long as you're hitting the ball. But
Mhm.
when you get too pull conscious, some hitters have trouble if they're committing too early in their swing to try to pull the ball. You think it's a fastball. Nope. Slider gets hard to adjust your barrel. Um, and if you look at his results overall against breaking balls this year, it wasn't great. Is it a major cause for concern? No, I think it's something to monitor. But otherwise, I think it's a very well rounded offensive profile.
Mhm. Yep, 22 years old, spent half the season in high A, half the season in double A. good for performance at both levels. Actually got a little bit better in Double A purely in terms of results. It's the Texas League. I don't know how much you're gonna look at Texas League numbers and maybe critique those offhand. But I mean, do you view as we look at some of the players behind Waldschmidt? I do think, like many of the teams we're talking about in this division, for me, there's not a huge gap between 1 and 4. Like, I like Slade Caldwell quite a bit. I like Kayson Cunningham a ton, even though his debut was not what we would have wanted to see. Demetrio Crisantes, his bat to ball skills and contact ability is exceptional. Another player in the system that has some injury questions. But kind of how do you view the gap between Waldschmidt and the next three sort of smaller, more contact oriented hitters? Do you think they're all top 100 types? Do you think they all have a case? Where are you at? Because I like Cunningham and Caldwell quite a bit. I could easily see them being 1 and 2 in this system, and you kind of defending that case.
I think Waldschmidt is the only guy who should be a definite top 100 prospect in this system. I think the
Mm,
production that he's had, especially up through Double A, whereas all these other guys, either the lower levels or have, like in Caldwell's case, have already hit a speed bump in terms of the production. Demetrio Crisantes is a guy where I wish we had a healthy Demetrio Crisantes,
yeah.
but a healthy Demetrio Crisantes is not what we have. He played 34 games this year. Then he had left shoulder surgery. He had Tommy
Mhm.
John surgery in high school too. A great draft pick. I mean, 7th round pick out of an Arizona high school,
Yep.
$425,000, pretty moderate bonus. He's a really good hitter, and we did have him in the top 100 before his injury this year, but the health is just a major concern. But it's it's a right-handed swing with very quiet hands. He's direct to the ball, high level barrel accuracy, especially against fastballs. I don't see big power coming from him. Sometimes those high barrel accuracy guys end up getting to more power than you would think just based on the
Mhm.
raw power alone. Maybe that's the case here. But I don't see the type of bat speed or the type of swing conducive to that unless he makes some changes, which I don't think he should do. I actually think like he's leaning into his strengths as a hitter. Just not like a super twitchy athlete or runner. So he's a second baseman, and if he can stay healthy, an offensive oriented second baseman with a chance to be an everyday guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kayson Cunningham is also probably going to be an offensive-oriented second baseman. Maybe you're more bullish on him playing shortstop. He did play shortstop for Team USA in a pretty deep class for shortstops at the position. Cunningham was one of 2 players that we put 60 grade hit tool evaluations on before the draft. He did not look great in his pro debut. He hit in just 11 games, 255, 308, 277. He's smaller. He doesn't have a ton of power. I think both Slade Caldwell and Kaysen Cunningham are similar in that they are hit over power types who are probably going to play up the middle in some capacity, but I could see them both being polarizing players because there are just questions about impact with them both. Where are you at on these two sort of hitterish left handed bats in the system?
Yeah, he's a pure hitter. His swing is short, adjustable, accurate. It's just the questions are going to be how much power does he come into? He's a smaller
Mhm.
guy. And then is it shortstop or second base? I think most people would probably say second base, which if it does, fine. I think he's still be a really good second baseman. But
Mhm.
I think that might happen, but I do give him a better chance to stay at shortstop than probably the median projection. I would for sure keep him at
Right.
shortstop as long as possible and give him a chance to prove that he can
And he
stay
did
there.
play he did play all his games at shortstop in his debut, and I would expect him to continue doing that for
Yeah, I
the
mean, at some
foreseeable future.
point, you have Geraldo Perdomo signed until 2030, I think it is. So maybe he ends up at second base either way. That's a ways off. But yeah, just keep him at shortstop as long as possible. But obviously, the calling card there is the bat, and then Caldwell. You talked about him too.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I
Go ahead.
mean, I, I love the athleticism. I love the speed, the ability to play a premium position in center field. He's extremely patient at the plate. 91 walks this year. We talked about some little guys. He's little. I mean, he's probably 5'6", five
Mhm.
seven. So he has a small strike zone. He uses it to his advantage, and you know me, like I don't mind smaller players. I think historically they have been undervalued.
Hmm.
And even though it's weird because he struck out 27% of the time this year, the bat to ball skills are much better than that. I think some of it is
Right.
him just being so passive
I wonder how
at the
many
plate.
like taken strike threes he had because he does not miss a lot, does not miss a lot in the zone, but he is the most passive hitter of anyone that we're talking about in this division. He had a 33% swing rate, which I think was nearly 4% lower than the next most passive, which was Mike Sirota. So I think in terms of like the difference between chase rate and swing rate, like maybe his chase rate is a little bit manufactured just because he never swings, but like clearly he's going to be able to get on base because of the size and just how infrequently he swings the bat.
Yeah, once you get into like the low 30s in swing rate, that's when it
Hmm.
gets into
You
you know,
probably could
I
be
don't want to
firing a
take
little bit
away
more.
his patience,
Hmm.
but there are times where I think he could be more aggressive and that would potentially or could cut down on
Right.
some of those strikeouts, which is I don't know that I've probably barely ever said that about a prospect.
Right.
Um, Ultimately, I think the biggest question mark on him is going to be the power because it's below average power at best. He is a small player and he's already pretty strong. So it's not like when Corbin Carroll signed out of high school, he was still this wiry guy, and he's even smaller than Carroll was. But I don't know that he's ever going to have more than 8 to 12,
Hmm.
maybe 6 to 10 home run
So
power,
you'd
kind of
have him as
splitting
like a
hairs.
30 sort of power type.
Most likely, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there isn't a lot of physical projection
Yeah.
to
He's already
add
pretty
strength and
filled out.
power. Yeah, and we saw it during the season this year too, right? Like where he hit when he was in low A, it was 294, 460, 454 in 48 games. He gets
Hmm.
promoted to high A, and then it's 238, 370, 311, no home runs in 66 games. So, he's 19 years old. That's a good pro debut. But the concern here is yes, he is extraordinarily patient and piles up all those walks against low A pitchers who do struggle with their control. And then as he gets promoted and faces more advanced pitchers with better stuff and better ability to locate, how does that work if he's not able to make pitchers pay with more extra base damage?
Hmm.
He is a good prospect. That's why he's ranked where he is in the system. There's still a lot of things to like about him, but that would be the main area to look at for like, okay, well, what could go
Hmm.
wrong?
Yeah, just circling back really quickly on the passivity and the chase rate for him. One number that I think is instructive to look at is swing rate minus chase rate. So that gives you a good idea of like the hitters who actually have excellent swing decisions versus the hitters who are maybe just passive. If you sort our board, again, this is all top 10 hitting prospects that we have data on for 2025 in this division. If you sort all these prospects by just chase rate, both Mike Sirota and Slade Caldwell are in the top three. If you do strike rate minus chase rate, however, Mike Sirota is still at the top of that list with a swing rate of 37%, but Slade Caldwell falls down into the bottom 10 or so. And so I do wonder at the higher levels, he's going to be challenged in the zone a lot more frequently than what he's been now. And so how that approach develops in concert with that, I think will be really telling because again, there is going to be a lot of pressure for him to get on base at a high clip to hit for average because there's just not a ton of power that I can see coming with him. I do really like him as a defender. I know in the report we have that Nick Pecora said he talked about how there were some split camp evaluations on his defense, some more average, some more plus. I always thought he was a pretty instinctual, fast, good defender in center field, and I also think he's going to add some value on the bases. So that overall kind of puts me in the more bullish camp on Slade Caldwell. I just really think he's got a chance to be a sort of, if maybe not top of the lineup, then like a useful player at the bottom of the lineup while playing a premium position. So both the short lefty hitters, Caldwell and Cunningham, I'm still a little bit more optimistic, and I'm hopeful they can, in Caldwell's case, continue to perform, and then in Cunningham's case, once he gets a full pro season, show us exactly why he was as highly regarded as a pure hitter as he was before the draft.
The player a little bit deeper down the top 10 who I continue to be a believer in is JD Dix.
Yeah.
just seeing him this summer and the fall after his sophomore year in high school. I was like, man, this switch hitter, 6'2". There's some
Yeah.
physical
D-backs have a lot
projection
of
here.
gamers in this top 10 too, just players who you enjoy watching them play, like hard-nosed style players.
Yeah, he had hitting ability. I'm in. And
Mhm.
then, you know, after that, just like every true Diamondback, apparently has shoulder surgery. Diamondbacks still take him
What
supplemental
kind of
first
bat
round.
speed training are we doing to put all this pressure on the shoulders in the D-back system? That's my
Well, this
question.
yeah, this is even before they got him.
Oh,
I don't
was
know.
it?
Their
Oh, yeah, it was.
doctors
It
their
was. You're
doctors are just like shoulder. I
Who
don't care
needs
about
them?
that. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but he, supplemental first round pick a year ago, solid year. I mean, they held him back in the complex at Arizona, which is pretty
Mhm.
conservative, but understandable. He hit well there. It's 342, 421, 493, 39 games. Gets promoted to low A. Not as good there, although the OBP was still pretty good at 261, 391, 335. The power is behind right now. Maybe that's the shoulder still lingering. He definitely has more size and strength projection to add power. And he's strictly a second baseman now, which is not surprising to me. I think the arm just is not there for shortstop, but I do like the hitting foundation with JD Dix, and hopeful that another step forward, just getting further removed, and hopefully just staying healthy from that shoulder issue he had before.
Yeah, Dix is exciting. One player that I'll highlight down here that I think is exciting, who the D-backs just drafted with the comp pick that they got for Christian Walker at 29th overall, is Patrick Forbes. The fact that he was their second pick makes me really like this draft a lot more for the D-backs than if they had to take Forbes with their first. Because when Patrick Forbes is going well, he looks as dynamic as any pitcher in this draft class that we just saw. Me and Jacob both saw him in person early in the season with Louisville. It was electric. I mean, if the fastball's over the plate, it's a pitch that's been up to 100 miles per hour. He's consistently in the upper 90s. He's got good life. It explodes out of the hand. He's got great arm speed. He's a pretty athletic mover on the mound. The slider is also a plus pitch. It's got this biting, snappy shape, a lot of sweep at times. So he's got two plus pitches, but then his draft stock really collapsed sort of second half of the season. There was one prominent start, I believe it was at NC State, where there were a ton of evaluators in at the NHSI. Like the entire scouting community was there. A lot of people ran over to NC State to see him play there. And he had maybe his worst outing of the year, just walked a ton of players. And that is the question with Patrick Forbes. He's sort of in this Brody Brecht phylum of prospect where it's elite arm talent, really loud, pure stuff. But is he going to be able to throw enough strikes to utilize that stuff in game? There's a lot of reliever risk here, and so he's an interesting arm talent. I think like even ahead of the two pitchers in front of him, I think the pure stuff that he has is as exciting in this system. But I think there's still a lot of variance with Forbes to be had. So be curious to see what sort of adjustments are made, if there's any delivery adjustments that are made. Probably needs the development of a third pitch as well, because it is mostly fastball slider at the moment, but he's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think his control is probably ahead of where Brody Brecht was. No,
Probably so. I mean, Brody Brecht improved and got to like 14% walk rate. I don't think Patrick Forbes' walk rate was quite that low, but I just think that they have some similarities for me with the arm speed, the athleticism, the fastball slider combo, and strikes concerns. Maybe Brecht is a more extreme version of that, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not confident that Forbes is even a starter, so I feel like putting them in the same sort of tier is fair. You think it's a significant difference in strikes quality?
I mean, I think that's clearly the area of concern for Forbes, but
Yeah,
I think Brody Brecht is more of
different
a
beast.
yeah,
More of a
more of a
20 maybe.
wild man.
I'm pulling up both their college walk rates just to add some more context to it as you're listening. So yeah, Patrick Forbes' career walk rate 13%. He was down to 10.7% in his draft year. Brody Brecht 17% down to 14.2% in his draft year. So yeah, I think that's materially different. For 3 ticks on average, and then in their in their peak years, a 4% gap in walk rate. You're probably fair to draw a distinction between those two.